Okay, that's the meeting now recording, so I'll commence to take the adherence of the Equal Opportunities Forum on Wednesday the 31st of March 2021. Janine Kalikis.
Here.
I have apologies for Maureen Devlin. Mary Donnelly.
Here.
Eric Holford.
Here.
I have apologies from Anne LeBlanc. Martin Lennon. No.
Apologies, I believe.
Okay, Katie Loudon.
Here.
Joe Lowe. Okay, Jim McGuigan.
Here.
Bert Thompson's here.
Yep.
Councillor Razak, I see that you're here. Are you substituting for anybody?
No, I'm not. I just came through for the update with the equity, and also asked to join the meeting just to see to have the link between the two.
Okay. Do you want to act as a substitute for because we have apologies for Maureen Devlin and
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, that'll be great.
Is there any other? Oh, sorry, we have oh, Councillor Walker, we have hi.
Sorry, Mo, are you doing a substitute for Maureen? Yeah.
I have you down as a substitute for Maureen Devlin.
Yeah.
But I've got apologies for Martin Lennon as well. So
Yep.
I'll substitute Martin Lennon then.
Yep.
Okay, officers in attendance. Got Jackie Fernie, Jill Batty, Aileen Muir, Carol Lyon, Alison Bell, and Kay McVeigh. Can I ask if anyone else has joined the meeting during the roll call? Okay, I'll just pass you over to the chair then to proceed with today's business. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much. Thanks, your help in the last few weeks. And thanks for the substitutes today. I'm glad you came along and hopefully have an enjoyable meeting. First of all, to declaration of interest. Are there any? None. That's good. To his minutes of previous meeting, can I have somebody second that and say it's a correct reading, correct minutes?
I'll second it, Chair.
Thanks very much, Mary. Thank you. We'll then quickly move on to, it was item 3, but I think if it's okay with Mo, and if they should have their phones off, of course. If Mo would like to give us a wee insight into the new forum, I think it'd be worthwhile for this committee to hear it, because we've got a bit of an affinity with each other. So, Mo, if you'd like to go ahead with a wee brief resume of what it's all about, please. You there, Mo?
You're on mute, Mo.
Apologies. We've started work on the equity group. We've had a very good representation and a lot of very good input, and some excellent presentations as well. The recruitment process, we had a presentation for that by Jill Batty. Recruitment of Black ethnic Asian minority candidates, and the BAME survey results, and also the positive action versus positive discrimination. That was very good as well, presentation by Jill Batty. And we are now going on to the equalities training for employee and elected members, and also update from the Public Sector Summit on race and employment. So we've had a fair bit done, but mostly it's been a lot of homework and prepping more than anything else. So I've been really pleased, and I'm also been really pleased with the fact that everybody's been very, very proactive. All the members have taken part, and it's been well addressed with the people, the councillors turning up, and also with the officers with the reports they've passed on. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Is that you?
Yes. That's
hello.
it.
Right. Well, thanks for that. And you're more proactive. I'm with you. And especially members, I think it would be a superb for some awareness sessions for us. We'll certainly welcome you back in the future. Any committee like to say anything? Okay, there. Right, thanks. And it's a report diversity in the house. I believe it's Aileen Muir's going to address this. Aileen,
My hand's still up.
Hi, Chair.
Eric Halfords want to speak.
Sorry, apologies. I didn't see the hand there. Eric,
It's okay.
sorry, Aileen, if you give us a wee minute, and we'll ask Eric to. Eric.
I'm having real trouble hearing you, Bert, I'm afraid. I don't know if that's just me or...
No, I'm having trouble hearing you as well,
Yeah.
Chair.
Right, hold on.
Yeah,
I'll see what I can do. Okay, sorry.
the connectivity of you, Bert, is bad.
My laptop, my internet, I can assure you. Sorry, I'm to speak loud and clear. Go ahead, Eric.
Right, okay. All I was going to say was, yes, I've been very pleased with what's been done with the Equalities Forum. I think we're making some progress. But I emailed Mo about something that he said at, and I cannot remember what it was at, but we were looking at the recruitment figures, and we have a similar problem with the disability figures. I was thinking, he raised this, and I emailed him to say, good point. That I'm going by the two sets of figures that were on that paper the other day. It was difficult to make sweeping judgments and say that there is an overall problem. But just looking at those figures, the idea that disabled people getting a guaranteed interview skews the figures didn't appear to explain the whole situation. So I think Mo said he was going to raise that here today, and I don't know if you're going to do that now or if you wanted to do it later, but I didn't want to let it slip through the net and get forgotten. I don't know if you want to say anything about that, Mo.
Mo, you're on mute.
Yes, sorry, Eric, I was looking for that email because I just read the email this morning. And the reason I didn't specify that one just now was because I wanted to see if there's any other questions first.
Okay.
The questions about the guaranteed interview was firstly the figures that we were told in the meeting were still concerning because again we did the percentages, and I did point out at the meeting that the percentages again were below everybody else again, especially with the disabled and also with the minorities, both of them. And the concern about this is that they might be getting a guaranteed interview, but could that be skewing the figures as well? Because the success rate is still really puzzling more than anything else.
Okay. Anybody, any comments on that? What Mo, Eric, and colleagues to invite along to this address and let us know, in particular, they do meet and gain employment, etc. Become
I can't hear you, Bert.
Hi.
All right. Okay. Hello.
You're breaking up. You're breaking up, Bert.
Right, hold on. Sorry about that. I don't know. It's a new set of headphones. I'll try and I'll say, and hopefully you can hear me. We're inviting along somebody for the Disability Forum very soon to address these issues, and also somebody for Women's Aid who's very current about the situation with women just now. So two very current things. People are going to come along to discuss them, if you can hear me there. And we will certainly keep them going and keep an interest in these figures. Okay, and I'll have a look at this just now. Well, maybe if that's... Sorry, Mary, you've got your hand up. Go ahead, Mary.
It was basically on what Eric was saying. If there's something that Kay could shed light on, maybe she needs a bit more time to look at those figures and give an analysis back here, but you've got that as well, Kay, if you need it. I thought maybe handing over to yourself to come up with an answer on that question that Eric was asking on the disability interviews.
If you're okay with that, Chair.
Okay then, Kay, yes.
I think we're encountering some technical difficulties this afternoon.
Yes.
I put my hand down earlier on, but I thought I would helpfully remind people. I think that was the Finance and Corporate Resources Committee where that issue was raised. So I did give an explanation at the time about the disability confidence scheme that we operate, and it does guarantee people who meet the essential criteria for the job an interview. But that does then have an impact, because if we guarantee people with the essential criteria for an interview, they are then competing with candidates who have both the essential and potentially the desirable criteria as well. But I'm happy to look into that a little bit further, and as you say, Councillor Thompson, it'd be good to bring it back to this group.
Yeah, okay, I believe so. Thank you. Bear with us. I was going to sign to people there, but I don't think we're up to signing either. Right, a couple of hands still up. These legacy hands, Councillor Isaac and Eric. There is that the two of yous?
Not legacy,
okay?
no.
All
I want to
legacy.
speak. No,
okay.
no, I want to speak.
Okay then,
Wants
Eric,
to
when you go.
Yeah,
Okay.
all I was going to say was the guaranteed interview should affect the amount of interviews given, but it shouldn't affect the ratio of applications to job offers, except that you might have a slightly higher level of job offer because, you know, you might have interviewed somebody under the guaranteed interview who you might ordinarily have overlooked and actually find that they had some wonderful gift. So it should never be, the ratio shouldn't be lower, it should be, if anything, higher. But it did appear from those two figures, and you can't draw real conclusions from two sets of figures, and I'm not suggesting you should, but it did appear from those two sets of figures that the ratio of job offers to applicants was lower in disabled people. Now, that may be that they were just abnormalities, outlying figures, and that's fine, but I'd be interested to see that progressed over a whole year or 2 years, preferably 2 years, actually.
Okay, thank you. Mo, is your hand still up? Are you okay there? Mo,
Yes, I was going to agree with what Eric has said there, because I do. When I did the motion last year now, I did go through the figures, the previous figures, and there is a disparity with the disabled as well, and the disabled figures as well. And the thing is, I know, and I agree with Eric that even if you're guaranteed an interview, the skew would be from interview to success. But the figures I was working from was from applications to success. So that disparity with a guaranteed interview wouldn't come into it. And I think we do need. I think rather than 24 months, Eric, I think it would be better maybe going back up 4 or 5 years, so that you can have a full pattern of exactly what's been happening. And well, with that, then you can at least you can put it in black and white, and then there's substantial, evidence as to what's happening with the success rate for the disabled. But the thing I did notice when I was doing the work on the motion was that there is a disparity, and I did point it out. After I spoke about this as well a few times now about this, and I think that this needs to be investigated. I think there needs to be a topic on this. Maybe the chair that maybe for the next meeting the information comes forward and the discussion gets be made about this, because I'm really puzzled why when you're looking at it through the years, the months, the period, sorry, that the anomalies, or the same anomalies are coming through. But we had with the ethnic minorities, some of the reasoning was that they're applying for the wrong type of jobs and everything else, and stuff like that. But with the disabled, I'm just puzzled, because are they applying for the wrong type of jobs as well? And are they overqualified and everything else? Because I'm genuinely puzzled. I think that there needs to be a discussion and an investigation on this, and I think there needs to be a couple of discussions anyway on a couple of other points as well. But especially with this one, because I did look this up, and there is definitely, you know, a lot of anomalies, a lot of unusual statistics.
Okay, thanks, Mo. Well, if you can hear me all, what I will say is, hold on, sorry, it's the police trying to hold me. No for anything bad. Sorry about that. Aye, the comments and observations you made are very worthwhile, and we'll certainly take them on board. And I think even more so now, it justifies asking, and I'm sure they'll come along, somebody from the Disability Forum to come along as well and give us their views and observations and things. But we'll certainly take that on board and hopefully get something for the next meeting. So thanks, Mo, and thanks, Eric. Okay.
Chair, we have Jill Batty, followed by Councillor Kalikis and Councillor Loudon.
Okay then, sorry about that. Things murder right. Who was first? Is it Jill that's wanting to speak first there? On you go, Jill.
Okay, thanks very much, Chair. Just to say that the invitation has been extended to the Disability Partnership, which is an external group, and that was about access to public buildings. That was the basis of inviting them along. There is a separate group, which is the Disability Network, which is internal council employees, and they would be the group that we would talk to about their feelings about recruitment and things like that. And happy to do that.
Yeah.
In due course. And I think the final thing that I just wanted to mention was that we are pulling together our equalities mainstreaming report, which is a large report which has a focus on both community and the workforce, and in that there's a lot of data that we'll be able to draw on to have a look at progression and the makeup of the workforce in terms of both ethnicity and disability and how those trends have progressed over time, and that will come to a future meeting of this group. I think if not the next one, then the one after that.
Okay, thanks very much, Jill. Look forward to that. I know it'll be comprehensive and worthwhile hearing, so thank you. Sorry about that, guys, about the hands. I believe, is it Katie you were trying to get in there?
Hi,
Hello?
thanks, Bert.
Right, sorry about that, Katie.
Oh,
it was me first. Sorry.
Sorry,
Hi,
who was
Chair,
first?
sorry. Councillor Kalikis first, Chair.
All right. Oh, my friend Janine.
Janine, well done.
Right, Janine. Okay, thanks. Sorry about that, Katie. Right, on you go, Janine.
Sorry to interrupt. Was there an updated set of papers sent out different to what's on CMIS? Because I'm lost.
Right. No, it was the only thing was Councillor Morazak was coming next month, but it was available just now and come in as substitute, and they just offered these comments there. But as soon as we've finished this discussion, we'll go right back to the report. Okay. Sorry, Janine. Thanks. Thank you. Katie, go ahead, please.
thanks, Bert. Sorry, Janine. I think this is obviously a very worthwhile piece of work. I'm really looking forward to hearing more about it at the next time as well. So thank you to everybody who's been involved in it. I'm just wondering, I'm slightly nervous about the idea of making direct comparisons between groups here, and I was pleased to hear Kate talk a wee bit about the idea of sort of intersectionality as well, where we've got people that are hitting maybe more than one protected characteristic. And I think that's really important to remember, that we're not thinking about people in separate groups. There could be people who are disabled who are also from a BAMI background and so on. So I think it's important to keep that in mind. I'm also slightly nervous. There seems to be, maybe this is just my interpretation of the way that Councillor Razak describes it just now, but it seems to be quite a lot of focus on the figures at the moment. And I just, like, from a research point of view, I guess, I'm just thinking that if we're talking about small numbers of people, then we need to make sure if we're quoting figures, you know, this number of people applied, this number of people got in versus this one and this one, if the starting figures for percentage of the population are different, then we're not necessarily going to be having figures that are statistically significant. So we might be able to see a visible difference, but that might not actually be a statistically significant difference, if you understand. So I think when we are looking at this, it's going to be important to make sure that we've got qualitative data around it as well as the quantitative stuff. So if we maybe have some case studies or a bit more context or a bit more information about individual applicant? I know, obviously within GDPR practices, but if we can have a bit more information about somebody's journey perhaps through the process, I think that would be useful to see as well. Thanks, Bert.
Thanks very much, Katie. I see a few hands here. I'll take them how they've come up. I don't know if they're legacy hands. I've got Councillor Razak and then Janine. Is that correct? Mo, you want in?
Yes, I'm just firstly, better see if you click on participants, you'll find out whoever puts their hand up. That it's easier to manage that way. I was going to say that I'm talking about figures that just now, Katie. Really our first meetings have been all about the background, doing the foundations first. So we've been doing the foundations with having the presentations and everything else. The reason for that is just so that we can have as much knowledge as possible before we discuss the issues. The reason I'm talking about the statistics is it's purely about number of people that have. It's not about the population or anything. It's about the number of people that have applied and the success rate. And I'm comparing it with somebody's male, female, white, or ethnic minority. So the reason for that, and disabled, sorry, and the reason for that is mainly doing a straight out comparison with the percentages, with the success rate, and see from that, what really trying to illustrate is that you need something, the quantitative like that, in order to make a judgment call of. For instance, if there's 100 people, and I totally agree with you that there might be smaller numbers, for instance, for ethnic minorities or anybody disabled applying. But if this is happening throughout, then you can't say it's an anomaly. That these figures that came out, say for instance, the last lot of figures that came out, that's an anomaly, because then you can say that that's the reason why, hence we need about 4 years of data just to see that overall what the pattern is with success rate. But we're not hanging too much on that, because I don't think we've discussed that in too much respect in our equity group meetings that we've had, because we've been doing the basics. But that for this meeting, the reason I brought that subject up is so that it does give some credence to what's being said, what Eric himself said, and what I've been saying is that there seems to be a disparity there.
Okay, right. Thanks for the comments, Mo. I'm sure it's something that you'll come back here and we'll discuss maybe further and in more depth. It's certainly worthwhile and very current. And again, Mo, we look forward to seeing you come back, and good luck with your new forum there. Can I move on? I've got a couple of people, I believe, there. Is it Janine first and then Mary? Janine, on you go. Hello, Janine, are you there?
Hi, no, I don't have my hand up. Sorry, it
So
must have been
A
legacy.
legacy. That's
Chair,
no
we've
bother.
got Jill Batty and Councillor Donnelly and Councillor Loudon.
Right, Jill Batty then first. On you go, please, Jill.
Just really as an additional point in relation to Councillor Loudon's point about qualitative data, we've just recently held some focus groups with Black and ethnic minority applicants who were unsuccessful, successful, and Black and ethnic minority employees who are currently with the council, and we'll be able to feedback the outputs from those forum focus groups in due course.
Thanks very much, Jill. Who was next there? Was it Mary, I believe? Mary Donnelly, on you go, Mary.
Yep. Thanks, Chair. Yeah, it was just a note, just an observation. I mean, I agree with what Mo's trying to do and what Eric had said earlier. And I think really the outcome that we're all trying to achieve here is that hopefully our recruiting process is reflecting the world that we're living in. So it has everybody included in that, and we are reflecting that within our workforce. That's what I'm looking for it to happen. And if there is any anomalies, we're getting rid of those anomalies to help people come through that system.
Okay, thanks, Mary. I agree. I'm all about inclusion. Thanks, sir. And move on now. I think it was Katie, you wanting back in?
Thanks. I'll just be very brief, Bert, because Jill's actually answered what I was going to ask about in terms of focus groups anyway. But thanks for that. Just wanted to be clear with Mo, though. I think I'm not disparaging the use of figures or saying that we shouldn't be, and I think that's an important point to make. I want to absolutely emphasise that, because you're right, if there is a pattern, which there appears to be, it's absolutely something that the council needs to look at. But just from, I can't help myself with my researcher hat on, from a strictly scientific point of view, if you've got a smaller number of people, we're not talking about necessarily percentage of the population, we're talking about the size. It's essentially like a mini research study which has been undertaken looking at what's happened. The smaller the numbers of people that are involved in that, the less accurate the results are, or the less statistically significant they possibly are. So I just think that's why I'm really pleased to hear Jill saying we're looking at a sort of bigger picture. That was my point. Thanks, Bert.
Right, thanks very much, Katie. I think that's us. We'll now move on, and thanks for that. It was very worthwhile.
Sorry,
there.
Chair, we've got Councillor Holford with his hand up.
So, Eric, I'm not ignoring you, honestly. Go ahead there, please.
Sorry, I was muted as well. No, I won't take a lot more time over it. I'm not convinced we have a problem. I'm just not convinced we don't, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
It could be that we're absolutely fine and dandy and everything's brilliant, but when I look at those raw figures, and I've said this right from the very first meeting I was in the council back 4 years ago, it just didn't look right to me. There looked like there might be an issue. So I'd like to see the statistics work through, and then if there does appear to actually be a statistical anomaly, to then ask those questions. Why? Are there reasons for it? Is it to do with statistical size of groups, or is it to do with some other issue? But I'd just like to be reassured that we are doing everything as well as we could be, because we should be held up as a bit of an exemplar really for other businesses and organisations. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Eric. Is that everybody there? Right, thank you, and thanks for your time there and all the input. We'll move on now to item 3, which is a report on mainstream equalities and diversity from housing and tech, and I believe it's Aileen you're going to present this.
Yes.
Go ahead there, Aileen. Thank you.
Okay, this is kind of Housing and Technical Resources Annual Report, Mainstream Inequality and Diversity. It provides an overview of progress made in relation to mainstream inequalities within the resource during 2019 and 20, and highlighting the key actions being progressed during 2020-21. And I know we're just at the end of 2020-21. We kind of give a progress update and highlight the key actions. The last annual report that we did to the Equal Op Forum was in October 2019, and that reported progress during 2018-19 and set out a number of actions to be progressed in 19-20. Within the resource, we have our Equality and Diversity Coordination Group, and they continue to progress the Equality and Diversity Work Plan and support a consistent approach to mainstream inequalities and diversity across the resource. And we've done a load of work kind of during the year to kind of update that work plan and to kind of make it a bit more robust. Obviously, it's widely noted about the COVID-19 pandemic and how it has a particular impact amongst the most vulnerable and disadvantaged within our communities. As a resource, we've revised our service delivery arrangements to support our customers' groups and to try and mitigate the impact of COVID. And there's a bit within section 5 of the report providing further details of this work alongside other activities being progressed during the year. Kind of key progress during 2019 and 20, we have carried out a number of equality impact assessments, 11 during that time, 7 were for our local letting initiatives linked to our housing allocation policy. We also had an EQIA on the establishment of a wheelchair target for wheelchair accessible housing targets, which is linked to our local housing strategy. Our antisocial behaviour strategy 2019-23 also had an EQIA, and we also revised and reviewed our Gypsy Traveller pitch allocation policy and our rent management policy during that time as well. Some of the kind of stuff regarding our Home Plus programme, which is a new build housing programme. During that time, there was a total of 284 additional affordable homes for social rent across the council, and that was a mix of 206 being built by registered social landlords and 78 being delivered by the council. All these new homes are delivered are accessible, adaptable homes, and they suit a variety of housing of need. Adaptations is a big one for us as well. We are a total of 1,648 adaptations made, and there was a mix of 848 for our own council properties and a further 800 completed in private homes through the grant funding provided by the Scheme Assistance. Touched on it earlier with the EQIA about the wheelchair accessible housing targets, and in September 2019 the Scottish Government published a revised local housing strategy guidance, and this reinforced local authorities to set targets for the delivery of wheelchair accessible housing. The target in South Lanarkshire is 8% of new build homes to be fully wheelchair accessible, and to meet that whole criteria for housing for varying needs. Progress against this target is monitored through the local housing strategy annual review process. With regard to health and social care, the South Lanarkshire Strategic Commissioning Plan, the second plan for 2019-22, we've worked with the South Lanarkshire Health and Social Care Partnership to have an impact into that second plan covering the period 2019 to 2022, and that includes provision of suitable and sustainable housing to support independent living within our communities. The resource and the Health and Social Care Partnership have worked together to develop what they call specific directions within the commissioning plan. These aim to promote homelessness routine inquiry across frontline health services and to prioritise access to services for our homeless households. And this has been progressed as a priority during 2020-21, and we'll report on that in the next annual review. The South Lanarkshire Rapid Rehousing Transition Plan 2019-24. As reported in 2018-19, we worked with our housing and homelessness partners from across South Lanarkshire to develop that plan. It contains 5 high-level priority objectives which centre around a partnership approach to preventing and reducing homelessness and limiting the amount of time people experience homelessness, and particularly spent in temporary accommodation. The first annual review was undertaken during 2019-20. And I've summarised, there's a summary there of the key areas of progress. There was a 34% reduction in the number of homeless households waiting for housing for more than a year. There was a 6% reduction in the number of homeless households containing children under 16 years of age. We had a 36% reduction in the use of bed and breakfast as emergency accommodation, and with the growth of our Housing First model, we are totally 10 individuals having been supported through that model. 26 homeless households and temporary accommodation properties were converted to a permanent Scottish secure tenancy, and there was further development of personal housing plans for vulnerable groups, including those experiencing domestic abuse and young care leavers. There's a range of stuff that we've has been really good progress within that. Another one for us is the Syrian Refugee Resettlement Programme. There's stats there. As at the end of March, there were 50 Syrian families, which comprised 133 individuals settled across the council, with over half being children under the age of 16. The families are supported. We've got specialist officers within the Refugee Resettlement team who work closely with youth, family and community learning officers within education. This enables these individuals to access opportunities and have positively engagement with communities and to develop their English language skills and hopefully to move on to get employment in the future as well. So there's a range of work that goes on for our Syrian refugees. On the 29th of January 2020, there was an executive committee approved the introduction of a UK global refugee programme. In that, it was April 2020 that was the indicative date. The programme replaced a range of of other initiatives, including the resettlement programme that I've touched on at 4.7.1. It was agreed that South Lanarkshire would settle approximately 30 individuals during the first year of that global programme. However, due to COVID, the commencement date has still to be confirmed. In January 2020, the Refugee Resettlement team won the Council's Customer Service Award. They were nominated by the families who kind of recognised the commitment and support that they got from the team and had allowed them to kind of settle in South Lanarkshire, and to make that kind of a good way for them to settle there. 2019-20 was due to be the final year of the resettlement programme. However, again, COVID has impacted in that, and the final families did not arrive during March, which resulted in the programme continuing into 2020-21. Gypsy Travellers, we do a whole range of stuff within our 2 Gypsy Travellers sites. It's Shawland Crescent and Larkhall, and the one in East Kilbride. During the year, we kind of reviewed the kind of Gypsy Traveller pitch allocation policy, and the new policy came into effect on the 1st of April 2020, and there was engagement with residents within the sites to develop and review that policy. For the last few years, we've been kind of talking to the sites about kind of investment and site improvements, and there's now a kind of investment master plan. This is the funding from this is secured from the Council's Capital Programme and also from some Scottish Government funding, through the Additional Capital Fund and the Decarbonisation Fund, and they've also been successful in bids to the Untitled Trust, which again has helped with site improvements and also with the kind of digital inclusion agenda. So that's again been a key. There to augment existing arrangements for consultation engagement with site travelling residents. There's been newsletters also developed. These newsletters obviously give them information on matters that affect them, but also it's where we can seek their views on site investment and the digital connectivity. We've also been doing, given with COVID and stuff like that, we've been doing stuff online with them as well to engage them. And to do Teams meetings and different things like that, so that they don't feel out the loop. Translation and interpreting services, we do continue to provide a range of translation and interpreting services to customers, depending on their specific communication requirements. Consultation, engagement and customer feedback. We have an annual consultation programme. And in addition to that, there's a broader programme of engagement, and we work closely with a range of equality groups. The Disability Partnership Housing Subgroup, the South Lanarkshire Access Panel, touched on before, the residents within the 2 Gypsy Traveller sites, Seniors Together, Sheltered Housing Tenants, people with lived experience with homelessness, and also through LEMAG, Lanarkshire Ethnic Minority Action Group, South Lanarkshire Youth Council and Women's Aid. During 2019-20 touched again on this with the rent management policy and the Gypsy Traveller pitch allocation policies. That was key. We engaged stakeholders in the 2 reviews of the documents. Employee training and development. The resource employees have participated in a range of quality and diversity training, and there's a kind of list within the report. And the resource continues to report to the Parent Joint Consultative Council, Housing and Technical Resources Committee, and through the kind of forum here today. 2020-21, the priorities for that, the kind of coordination group continues to oversee the work in relation to mainstream inequalities. And as I previously kind of noted, COVID has a significant impact. Key priorities for 2020-21, ensured continuity, I can't even say the word, of critical services to potentially vulnerable individuals, including our sheltered housing tenants, customers experiencing homelessness and the residents of our 2 Gypsy Traveller sites. Continue to implement equality impact assessments across all our revised policies and strategies to ensure that there's no negative impact there. Home Plus is a massive programme for us, and again to support the delivery of additional and affordable homes, and also to make sure that these are housing for varying needs. continue to work with the Health and Social Care Partnership there. Engaging with those who have lived experience of homelessness to support implementation of year 2 of the Rapid Rehousing Transition Plan, to continue to engage with our Gypsy Traveller residents to inform and shape the investment programme, and to make sure that this has continued to be delivered within both our sites, and contributing to that UK Global Resettlement Programme for refugees through the consolidation of earlier schemes into a single global programme. Yeah, so that's the kind of, there's a lot being going on with regard to equality and diversity through the year. Any questions?
Okay, thanks very much, Aileen. That was a very comprehensive and informative, enlightened report there. I really enjoyed hearing that, and very encouraging. A couple of quick points, and I'll let with my colleagues in there. The one about the amount of affordable houses being built is always encouraging, especially with ones that can be adapted. And the ones with wheelchair access. I had actually a case a few weeks ago. A girl was promised a house, and 5 weeks she had it on offer, and then she was refused because she was in a wheelchair and it didn't suit. It's a bit of a mix-up, but I know that colleagues apologised and it's been sorted, and I appreciate that. But the amount of how anxious she was to get this house, and if there one's available, it'd be great. So the wheelchair access houses fully support it, and it's a good figure, but I'd like even more. You're talking there, if I could go into the Gypsy Travellers, I feel that they were neglected in society as a whole for so long. To see our housing team actively involved in trying to encourage them, trying to help them, is really good in response. Notably,
there's really good engagement within the Gypsy Traveller site. You know, there's a whole relationship's been built there, both from the managers within the sites and from our kind of housing staff, and kind of general housing staff as well. So the relationships have all been built. The Gypsy Traveller sites as well, particularly in Shawlands Crescent, there's kind of residents there who are involved there with the Scottish Government, you know, at that kind of level. You know, so that's really encouraging as well, and they've built up the relationships. They're bringing something back to kind of the Gypsy Traveller community, and that can only be positive, absolutely positive.
Yeah, Eileen, the one there quickly, the one about the Syrian refugees, like colleagues here, people come and they'll pester you, if that's the right word, and annoy you, and they'll want things done. And if you're successful and you succeed, you very, very little, not much time do they feedback or say thanks, and never hear from them again. So the Syrian refugees are thanking us and putting the council forward for an award. It's very encouraging. I'm not saying any more, but thanks again there. I'll open up and I see Eric. Eric, would you like to go ahead there to try to get in?
Thank you. Yeah, just a couple of things, and overall I'm really very pleased with this report. I think it looks great. I think we're doing a good job. Just one thing about the wheelchair accessible housing. Am I right in thinking that that means that all houses are built today have to be have limited wheelchair accessibility, but the 8% is ones which are fully, you know, all on one level or whatever? Is that?
No, not every house would be built like that. But
no, the 8% I'm talking about.
As that 8%, you know, we've agreed a target of 8%. So anything we're building, and particularly within the RSLs as well, there would be that kind of target. So, and I can only see probably in years to come that would increase, you know, kind of going forward. So as we're looking at developments at that kind of planning stage, they're things that would be factored into that. You know, what we want as well is houses that can be adaptable, that can be there for a range of needs. You know, it doesn't necessarily have to be somebody with a wheelchair, but somebody with some other kind of disability that might need kind of housing. So because that's important, that we can allocate houses, you know, to a range of people. You know, and you're not kind of restricted. So that whole new build programme is round about that.
I mean, I'd love to see all houses be wheelchair accessible, but I know that's not going to happen. I'm not naive. No, the only other question, over the period of the COVID, the adaptations programme, am I right in thinking it got a little bit extended? I mean, for example, there were a couple of cases of people needing adaptations last year that took something like 6 months before they got an assessment, and some time after that before anything was done. Is that something that has been extended, and is there some programme, if so, to catch up?
I'll check that out for you. It comes within our kind of repairs team, so I'll check that out for you, and I'll send you an email with regard to that, if that's okay.
Okay. I mean, I'm not saying there's a. I'm not being. I'm trying not to be critical, but I'm just slightly want to make sure that we are keeping up to date, because we have a very good reputation on this site, and I want to make sure we keep it. You know?
I think as well, for the council's perspective, you know, like 9 times out of 10 we would do an adaptation, because it's probably better that somebody remains in their own home than kind of move them, you know, and it's part of that probably the discussion with the tenant or with the kind of owner. But you know, if people are keen to remain in their own home, we would want them to remain in their own home. So there's no ceiling in the budget for adaptations. You know, they'll come in, they'll be assessed, and they'll be done. And obviously COVID's delayed a lot of things. You maybe like through getting kind of people to do the job, you know, stuff like that. So there's a whole range of things that's impacted with COVID, but certainly, as you say, our AIDS and adaptations programme is really, really good.
Oh, absolutely. My only concern was whether an urgent adaptation having to wait 5 or 6 months for an assessment seems quite long to me. And okay, I do understand that this last year has not been a standard year by any means, but I just wanted to make sure that that's something that's being addressed and hopefully getting back into.
I'll check that out for you, and I'll come back to you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Eric. Mary, would you like to go ahead there, please?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, overall, I think your report was excellent, and onward and upward, because we always want to do better. But my points on the adaptations as well, and getting this right for every tenant who requires adaptations, I don't think we do get it right. And I think that's from the first person going in the door to have that conversation about what adaptations are required, whether it's the social worker or whether it's the OT. And I would like to know and be confident that the narrative is that we will adapt their house based on their human rights to stay in their own home, and not have included in that conversation, well, a nice wee bungalow down the road or a wee adapted house would be just right for you. I don't think it should come into the conversation at all. I have had experience, and I was a bit upset about it. And so was my tenant. I have had a positive outcome, and I'd also like to take up the point Eric made. The adaptations going in, I'm talking 2 years, and they're just starting. And I don't think that's healthy for the tenant. And I think we need to be looking at the timing of when they get the notice for the referral for adaptations to when we start the work. Can we tighten up on that? Because they deserve a bit better treatment than that in terms of their human rights.
I'll certainly take that back, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. I think that's all the hands up for this. So again, thanks for that. And,
Chair, sorry, we have Councillor McGuigan and Councillor Razak.
Right, apologies. Jim, go ahead, please.
Thanks, Bert. I think that what we've got is a situation where there are cases where people may not necessarily be disabled prior going into hospital, but because of the procedure that they're going to hospital for, they then come out with a disability. I'm thinking about people who are going in with regards to amputations. Now, with regards to delayed discharges, this has actually been a major issue within the health service in Lanarkshire in particular. And that what they have done in conjunction with the IGB is they have actually taken it in a root and branch appraisal of the situation, and the figures that we have now in relation to the delayed discharge target figure is exceptional. And that was just down to the fact that what they did was they tried to look at the procedure that the person was going into hospital for, trying to anticipate how that person was going to come out of hospital, and essentially starting to do the adaptations maybe even before the person went into hospital, but certainly while they were in hospital, these procedures were taking place, the adaptations were taking place. What that has meant is that a person is not being delayed in hospital for any longer than they need be, plus the fact that when they come out of hospital, their house essentially has already been adapted to what their needs are going to be. And I think that that is a positive way going forward, because of the fact that we're actually sort of doing it from the other end. Because previously what we were doing, we're waiting until the clinicians were saying to the person, right, you're ready to go home, and then we started scurrying around trying to get things sorted out for them. Now, there will be some adaptations to houses where the length of time and obviously the time to plan, to put the contract into place, to then get the contract actually completed, it can be a considerable period of time, and I think that has to be appreciated. But if we start it earlier, then we're still going to be able to gain time on it, and I think that that obviously is going to be advantageous for many concerned, and that I think that this has actually been a good news story, and it's one that we've got to build on, and we've got to make sure that other factors don't come into play here, which essentially knock it for six back into the outfield.
Okay, thanks for that, Jim. I've actually experienced just now 2 residents, relatives in hospital, and they're having amputations. And the social work, I must credit them, have been very good, and they're dealing with it just now, and things will be in place for the coming out of hospital. So hats off to the social work there. But I appreciate your comments, Jim. Can we move on then to, I think it's Councillor Razak and then Councillor Donnelly. Go ahead, Mo.
Okay, thank you very much. I was going to echo what's been said already, but especially with what Jim has said. The thing I was going to say was that there are some cases where persons ended up in hospital, or say, for instance, unfortunately suffered a stroke, but they're living in an apartment that's got stairs on it, and that they're having to go upstairs to their apartment. And the unfortunate thing is that we've got a limited amount of housing that's on the same level, the one level. And I'm just hoping that our future builds is that we take that into account, that we have houses that's on the ground floor, so that easy access, and also for them to, that there's no stairs for them to climb. I think for me myself, that's been one of the hardest ones to sort out, more than anything else, to try and help the constituent, because of the fact that they're so limited, the number of houses, and when they're becoming available, and that includes the sheltered accommodations as well, because again there's only a limited amount of resources. And I think in future planning, I think for instance, for each area, maybe that needs to be factored in now.
I think as well the important thing is having the discussion with the person about their housing options, and kind of setting the scene, where we do have vacancies, like the kind of areas there, what we have, our kind of stock profile as well, if they're looking for council housing. So it's having that kind of conversation through the kind of our whole housing options approach is important there.
Yeah, Mo, you're right. As I share the same ward, I know that we do get a lot of people asking for certain types of properties, and it's only by really listening, we can deliver. And I'm sure if yourself or me or any other person in the committee or MD takes that back, I'm sure housing will take into consideration. So it's definitely not just about volume, it's about house types as well. So thanks, Mo. Right, can we move on? I think it's Mary, you're waiting to get in there.
It was just to come back to Jim, it was clarification. So is that a new strategy that we're, if adaptations, if somebody's had an amputee, if they're an amputee and they need adaptations in their house, is that work getting done before they actually come out? Because I've had instances where we need to wait. I've been told we need to wait till they come out and then we can do the adaptations, and that's cost me somebody's not having their house adapted for a 2-year period.
Chair, if I can come in there.
Yes, Jim, on you go.
Okay. The situation is that the betterment of the figures on the delayed discharges has come about because of a change in the way in which these situations are handled. It's more a case of a change in not so much policy, but actually in the implementation of the requirements of the individual. And from that point of view, it certainly is making a great change to the delayed discharges. If you've got situations where the adaptations don't appear to be being recognised as being required and therefore not essentially being worked on while the person is in hospital, I'd certainly be taking that up with the people involved, essentially to identify to them what the situation is, what the likelihood is of how the person's going to be once they come out of hospital, and that can they get some degree of planning put in place while the procedures are taking place, while the medical procedures are taking place, in order that the adaptations to the house can take place, or as it also could be the case that they may require to have a different residential status.
Okay, Jim, I'd be very interested if you get an answer to any of that, or you can enlighten the committee on that. I think we'd all like to share that and hear what's happening. It'd be worthwhile. Thank you.
I'll keep you posted as much as I can. Certainly.
Right, thank you. Thank you. Is that everybody's hand there, Elizabeth? Yes. Everybody's hands down.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thanks everybody for the contribution there. And it's something, as I say, as councillors, we probably all hear about adaptations and accessibility, and especially going back to the wheelchair access, because I was just dealing with a friend of mine there. So it's very current and things that I hope we can look at and we can improve and certainly deliver to the people that need them. I think we'll move on now to through and after care housing service role. And I believe this is a presentation from Jackie Fernie. Go ahead, Jackie.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Share my screen.
I can see you, yes. Oh, it's disappeared now.
Oh, sorry.
I've got it now, yeah, I've got it, yeah.
Okay, great, thanks very much. Thanks very much for having me along. Expecting that to go to a full screen to be a bit easier for you to see. Is that okay? So thanks very much for having me along, everyone. I'm the homelessness and housing support manager within Housing and Tech, and I've also, as part of that role, got a lead responsibility for housing's side of through care and aftercare. And the presentation today is focused on housing services role in supporting young people from moving on from a care setting. So I've started off by way of introduction. I've included a piece of legislation relevant in supporting and promoting the rights of children, but we have reference to plenty of other pieces of legislation across housing, homelessness, social work, including the support and assistance of young people leaving care regulations. I haven't gone into any detail in that, given the kind of time and the focus around housing's role. I really just wanted to include something to have a marker down to give you comfort that we do take account of all of the relevant legislation in our planning and developing processes. So then I've really focused on our partnership approach to through care and aftercare services, housing's role in particular, our commitment as a corporate parent, the sort of importance of considering the widest possible range of housing options and not being, limited to this is the way to go, because it's all very much down to each young person and what's important to them and where they want to be. And then linked to that, we work to a housing pathway that we've had for a number of years, but we've spent a lot of time this year on development of our services, our approach and our pathway and how it connects to the bigger young person's pathway that social work lead on, but housing, health, education, any third sector, anyone basically important to the young person feeds into. I've given some examples of the sort of more common housing outcomes or options that people tend to go for, a bit about performance, and then just for future priorities. I've included a slide just covering the partnership and governance structure, which is maybe already familiar, but looking from the Corporate Parent and Partnership Board through to GIRFEC Partnership Board, and strategy group, and the various working groups that feed off of that. And we all have an action plan that we work to, and housing are represented across all of those groups. Probably more active in the corporate parenting group, but involved in all of them. In terms of housing's role then, an ambition of ours, and something we've spoke a lot about and thought a lot about over the last year, is how we are and sort of strive to be the friendly face of housing. How can we, you know, make people as comfortable as they can be and be open and approachable? So one of the things that we do, that we've done for a number of years, COVID's kind of set us back, but that we'll get back to, and have probably more emphasis on, is visits to children's houses. And that's really just quite informal for us to be around, be known as the housing person, available for, you know, a chat if you're looking for any advice or information, but quite informal and a kind of easy introduction. Then we're there to provide advice and information in any way, whether it's an informal children's house visit or, you know, folk accessing the service for information or advice. We offer the housing options service, and really that's something we want to really push and discourage as much as we can a young person just completing an application and sending it in, you know, sometimes assisted by a social worker, but it kind of leads, when you look at applications, sometimes, you know, folk are maybe asking for something that we don't, you know, we don't have that type of house in that area, or you know, if what's really important to you is a part of East Kilbride that we don't have a lot of turnover in, then maybe we should be thinking about a private let, because maybe that would be a better thing for you. So we really want to encourage the housing options discussion, and developing the pathway plan, so that you've just got all of the information about all of your options. Young people moving on from care have got the highest priority that's available. They're placed in the council's OC management housing queue, and there's only about 5% of our lets go to that queue, but it's because it's such a small queue. It's only really there for through care applicants or exceptional circumstances. And it's really so that applicants aren't lost by listing in any of the other lists, that it really is the highest priority we can offer. They're also guaranteed, as part of our protocol, you know, a good quality offer, a medium to high demand area, you know, the best possible start, and we offer an enhanced housing management service. Another thing we've had a good look at over the last couple of years, and found kind of variation, but good practice in amongst it of what, you know, some different officers in different areas see that as being. So in the work that we've done around development, we're sort of just making sure we've got a more consistent approach, and it's that sort of highest spec kind of service across the whole area. Continuing with housing's focus, we have dedicated local housing officers in each of the 4 localities who take a lead on through care. So they are the person that will sit and do the housing options discussion. You know, really folk who've got a real interest in this area, and you know, they've got the knowledge. Basically, they work closely across social work. We've also got locality management leads, a team leader, and the housing service manager in each locality has a lead role, and again that liaison and link across social work. We've got central services within my team, the central homeless team, so I'm the lead for through care, and then there's various people in my team who have a role. We last year recruited a dedicated officer through Rapid Rehousing Transition funding, and that was to help us with the development work, and sort of how we just progress the service, with a focus on that early planning, understanding the needs. We have a shared database that helps inform the discussions. We have regular liaison meetings with social work, and we use that shared database as a sort of starting point. Basically, every young person from 16 is added, and we have a discussion about what their housing plans are. If they have plans yet, they might not, and it's for discussion later. but it's really just to have on our radar who the young people are across the area, what they might need, you know, because someone could decide to leave and present to housing on a Friday afternoon. So we really want to know what would they need if that happened? Should it be supported? Would they be okay to go to a temporary flat? What kind of support would they have? Would they be okay for cooking and things like that? So it's mapping out as much information as we can so that we're best able to meet needs. And then the real sort of aim is that we make good offers and we have a good level of sustainment. The housing options considerations then, staying put is really the basis of the early discussions. And there's been good work done again over the last year in the development work across housing and social work, and social work are really committed to getting across that staying put principle and reframing their conversation that we have, you know, sort of leading up to 16 years old, that 16, where, you know, we've had quite a bit of discussion around how early, is it too early to start talking to someone about housing before they're 16? But then some people choose to just leave when they're 16, and we need to make sure they've got the information about what their rights are and stuff. So we kind of need to be thinking about it and having conversations. So what's come out of that is that we reframe the conversation and we make it very clear that we want you to stay on in the children's house or your care, supported care, foster care. We're keen that you stay as long as you want to. There's no pressure to leave, but raising awareness of there's these services here and of your rights and the information that's available to you. So again, it's around planning and preparation, understanding needs and aspirations, what's important to the young person, the external important factors like training placements or work, where their supports are, where they want to be, what their interests are. The other things around that, like transport, if you're working somewhere and going to live somewhere else, what are the transport links? What kind of support would you need? That kind of thing. Just for that awareness and consideration of all options for that to be possible. So then in terms of the pathway, we are keen that for every young person we do develop a pathway, regardless of whether they want council housing or not, that we have the discussion and we develop the pathway. We think about all of the things that I've mentioned, what's important in their life, and that fits into the bigger pathway plan that considers all of the other areas, health, education, the bigger kind of social work led plan. And it's also important that we go at a pace that's the young person is comfortable with, because from that first discussion in that first housing options meeting, we don't need a plan from that. I think it's important that we build it over time, and things change, your work placement changes, you move from training into work, that the plan grows with the young person is really the aim. The kind of common examples then of where people, what the housing options are, or where people move on to staying in care, we are seeing that people are staying on longer, and you'll see that from performance stats a bit later. Supported carer, that's an option that's shown kind of positive in terms of outcomes, and social work are really keen to increase the number of supported care placements, and they've got a kind of drive on just now. It's quite a small resource, but they're looking to grow that. Moving on from care to your own tenancy is what we probably see most regularly, whether that's a secure tenancy or a short tenancy that often is later converted as long as the person's kind of happy where they are and feels that's the right thing. Supported accommodation is less common, but it definitely happens, and it's usually people with more complex needs. And there's another area of really, really good progress. Over the last year, social work are working on developing supported accommodation, working with a commission service that will be an option between a children's house and independent living. So I think that's a really, really, really positive piece of work and real good progress. We do have a number of young people in any year who leave care and move into housing supported accommodation, which is really homeless accommodation with housing support. And for some people, particularly, we've got a project in Blantyre at Main Street that's protected for young people. So for some people that is a positive move. It's more independent than the Children's House, and they would rather be there and are happier there. But I think there's good progress in terms of the actual for young care leavers supported accommodation. Temporary furnished flat sometimes is an option as well. Maybe someone doesn't really know where they want to be, or they leave care quite quickly or unexpectedly, and we're reacting, but that works out for some people. The less common options are the private sector, although I think that is something that we should explore more to, again, there could be opportunities to get you the area you want to be. Student accommodation for some people, some folk move on to family and friends. B&B and respite isn't really a move on option, but for a bit of respite and sometimes around maintaining a placement, you know, can be an option. And then the other less common but still worth considering are residential employment options, purchase, and there's kind of small examples of other things. I'm just in my second last slide here. Just some performance highlights showing that over the last couple of years, the last full year's data that I had, we had 73 young care leavers on waiting for housing. 29 of their applications were active, 44 deferred. And that's again really just down to the way we work, that we encourage the application as early as you want to make it, but you might not be ready to move at that point, so it will be deferred until you're ready. We had 6 new applications in that year, 20 folk were housed, so quite significantly higher than the year before. One person moved on within the year from their tenancy, but I don't see that as a negative. They transferred to another council tenancy, so that's fair enough. That was the right thing for them. It does mean that our sustainment rate dropped to 95%, but that's still really positive, and it's actually higher than if you look at the general sustainment rate across all tenancies. 2 young people had their tenancy converted from a short tenancy to a secure. But less people started with a short tenancy, so that was fine. We were 173 days from activating the application to house, so that's longer than we would like, but we can see it's improving from the year before, and it's trying to get that balance. You want to access housing quickly, but we want a good offer in the right area, so you're kind of balancing those things. You can see also that the average age is increasing. I'm sure it was 18 the year before, then 20, then 21. So I think we're in a positive kind of trend there. And 2 young people refused the offer of housing that they got. Sorry. And that we watch that just in terms of, are we getting it right? Are we making good offers? If if we've got a high refusal rate, we would worry about that. That and sustainment are really areas to watch. Sorry, my voice is going. And then in terms of future priorities, then it's just continuing. We have the new through care and aftercare team. We work closely with them and across the group. So continuing that partnership approach. We've got an ongoing role across all of the groups. We've reviewed a joint protocol that we have across housing and social work. We've got a partnership group working on that. So we're just about to finish that piece of work, but we're going to continue the partnership group. Again, just about considering all options and not being narrow-minded there. It all comes back to that individual person's circumstances. So we start there. What do they want? And then we need to go and look for the solution that matches that. And then we've got a focus on our support and meeting more complex needs between housing, the new through care and aftercare team, and all of the partners that we work with, particularly the subsector partners. And I think that's me. I think the kind of main point from all of that is just our ongoing commitment to this area of work and our role as a corporate parent.
Thanks very much, Jackie. Thank you. Just a couple of observations. I'll make them quick there. Have we any input into legislation? Have we consulted in any way? The other thing is prevention. Are we doing enough prevention to stop people becoming homeless? And when people are allocated properties, etc., are they reminded? Because I get quite a lot of people, sometimes from this group of people, unfortunately, I don't know if they're targeted or people preconceived ideas, but they're reminded of their tenancy agreements and how important it is about antisocial behaviour, etc. Do we monitor that in any way and do we make people responsible? Thanks, Jackie.
Yeah, we get involved in any consultations that go on. We definitely feed in and we're active across, particularly social work in this area, but housing get involved too. In terms of prevention, definitely, linked to our rapid rehousing transition plan, but also these pathways are about trying to get good information, trying to make sure that folk want to work with us, all of that kind of the friendly face and the early discussions and stuff, I think, is trying to combat people maybe not wanting to engage with housing, or, how do we get around that? And then the pathway is about how do we, listen to what you want and do that over time. You don't need to know exactly what you want at 16 in the first conversation you have with us. So how do we get better at building plans? We do have the enhanced estate management. I think we've struggled in the past having enough support for young people moving on from care. And I think the creation of the through care and after care and support workers attached to that, and then making sure that it's not a case of, well, social worker go support officers, we're out. I think, we're working hard to make sure that we've all got responsibility, we're all involved. So how do we deliver wraparound support that we're all part of? So I feel like there's a lot of really positive work going on, and there's resources there that we never really had in the past. And another important thing in that, I think, is seeing that age increasing, because there's evidence there of the better outcomes the older someone leaves care. So I feel like there's quite a positive trajectory around it.
Okay, thanks very much there. I can see, Mary, you've got your hand up. Would you like to come in there, please? You there, Mary? You're on mute.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, Jackie, I think that was an excellent presentation. One wee thing going forward, I couldn't read it, so it was good that you were speaking it, but some of your slides were just too small for me. So getting them bigger is actually quite good. And that's a constructive criticism, not a negative.
No, not at all. I'll take that on board. Thanks very much. Yeah.
The other thing, I think the trajectory that you were saying, with the age, if you get them staying as long as possible, you get a better outcome. And I've got experience in the care field and with young people, so I do get that. I think your slides were showing me, we do the blank canvas, but if you had a blank canvas and you wanted to see what your life would be like, how would you imagine that? And there was no bars, no barriers. How would you draw that picture? And I'd have to compliment you and say your slides reflected that in terms of a blank canvas. So it was really good to see that. They were going in the right direction in terms of supporting the young people as much as possible. And I think with the supported backup for them, that does make a big difference. If they've got somebody they can go to and speak to, that makes all the difference for them in terms of having somebody that they can actually ask questions to or seek advice and guidance from going forward, as well as them having the independence in their life and getting the best start that they possibly can get. So well done. Thank you.
Right, thanks, Mary. Any other hands here? No, okay, another hand. So I'd just like to thank everybody. I really do, I mean this, I sincerely appreciate everybody attending and their contribution. It's probably one of the best committees or forums on for me personally. So thanks very much. Have a nice summer when it comes, and I'm sure we will. And good luck with your campaign, and take care out there. Thanks very much. I've no other business, so I'd like to close the meeting. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Chair.
Thanks, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye-bye.